You may be a new shooter, a longtime gun owner, or even a police officer or soldier. No personal defense handgun is fully equipped without a Crimson Trace laser sight or light. Get the confidence and reliability you need to protect family, home, and country. Call 800-442-2406 or visit crimsontrace.com for a free copy of our new laser training video, The Laser's Edge. Crimson Trace.
Broadcasting on more than 140 great radio stations across the greatest country on the planet. Welcome to the #1 national voice in defense of your Second Amendment rights. Tom Gresham's Gun Talk is on the air. Today on Gun Talk, Dick Metcalf ignited a firestorm of protest with his controversial column in December's issue of Guns and Ammo magazine. He's here to explain how he came to write this piece and to talk about what's happened in the aftermath of its release. Also, Examiner journalists Dave Workman and David Codrea drop by to discuss the latest news stories. And we're talking exclusive firearms from galleryofguns.com. All this and more coming up today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk. Call us now at 1-866-825-5486. That's 1-TOM-TALK-GUN. Or reach out to us via email at tom@guntalk.com. Now, here's Tom Gresham.
All right. Hang on. Better put on your seatbelt today. It's going to be fairly interesting, I'm thinking, because we got a lot to talk about. Guarantee, as we say down here in Louisiana. I'm Tom Gresham, by the way. I am the host of Gun Talk, and we're going to be talking about, well, guns and a lot of other things as we go through the next several hours. Last week, a week ago today, I told you about a column in Guns and Ammo magazine written by Dick Metcalf, a fellow I've worked with and known for 30 years on a lot of different projects with Dick. And the column essentially said, look, not all regulation of firearms is an infringement on our rights. Not all regulations are unconstitutional, as you might imagine. Lots of reaction to that. So much so that the story's been picked up by, oh heavens, CNN, Fox, the New York Times, Slate, Politico, a lot of other places. And middle of the week, Dick Metcalf was let go, fired from Guns and Ammo magazine, and Jim Bequette, the current editor, who was slated to retire out of that slot at the end of the year, also stepped down. Now, I think Bequette may still be in as vice president of the company, which I think he's had that slot for a number of years. But you can just see what kind of firestorm this ignited. If you don't know, if you haven't checked it out, go to theshootingwire.com and you can take a look at Metcalf's piece. It's kind of a follow-up of what happened. He explained it, what his thoughts are on it right now, and that was written 2 or 3 days ago. Essentially, Metcalf has turned down pretty much all the requests in the media except for Gun Talk. And so what we're going to do, I'm going to talk with Dick. We're going to find out how it came about and what it meant, what he meant to say, and his take on this whole thing it is, as we say, a teachable moment. You know, not all of those are in a good way. And so that's basically what we're going to be doing for right now. Now, here's the deal. You are going to have a chance to weigh in on this, but at least for the beginning, I'm going to have a little chat with Dick, and then we'll go from there. Our number, by the way, if you want to go ahead and get that in, is 866-TALK-GUNS or 866-TALK-GUN, singular. That'll get with you. That'll get you right in here. In just a minute, we'll have Dick Metcalf joining us. Don't go far. We'll be right back.
Get a grip on your AR rifle, an Ergo grip. For maximum control, comfort, and accuracy, you need the grip that's ergonomically designed for the human hand. Ergo grips come on some of the best factory ARs. Now you can upgrade your own rifle with a great grip. At ergogrips.net, you'll also find accessories for your rifles and handguns. Shoot better, get comfortable. ergogrips.net. ERGO-grips.net.
The Ruger American Rimfire Rifle combines features of the Ruger American Rifle and innovations of the 1022 Rimfire Rifle to appeal to all bolt-action enthusiasts. It features a modular stock system that provides comb height options for scope or iron sight use, a power bedding integral bedding block system for outstanding accuracy, a Ruger Marksman adjustable trigger, and a 1022 style rotary magazine for reliable feeding. The Ruger American Rimfire Rifle, another rugged, reliable firearm from Ruger.
Be a more accurate and confident shooter. Get a Crimson Trace laser and light. If you're holding it, you're aiming it. That's called instinctive activation. Crimson Trace invented it. Get the best deal on Crimson Trace lasers and lights at OpticsPlanet.com. Optics Planet carries thousands of rifle scopes, red dot sights, holsters, safes, knives, apparel, and the full line of Crimson Trace lasers and lights at OpticsPlanet.com.
One machine, one operator. Each machine is run by a single pair of hands. Hands that spend all day, every day, learning the machine inside and out. We don't believe in quotas. The point is crafting faultless ammunition, no matter how long that takes. It's not quick or easy. Being the best never is. Black Hills Ammunition. It started with our hands.
Looking for shooting instruction but don't know where to go? Well, we have it, and you can access hours of training and safety videos, which you can watch on your home computer. On GunTalkTV.com, we have top competitive shooters, the best in self-defense trainers, and folks who have hunted all over the world, helping you learn which gun to buy, how to use it, how to store it safely, and everything else you need to be a safe and competent shooter. We also have gun makers showing off their newest rifles, shotguns, and handguns. Doesn't matter if you're a veteran shooter or a complete beginner, you'll find what you need at GunTalkTV.com. You can check it out for free, and you can get full access for only $5.95 a month. That gives you unlimited access to hundreds of videos, and we're adding more all the time. Run the videos over and over to make sure you understand what's being said. Skip around. You're in control. Get smarter. Shoot better. Visit GunTalkTV.com.
Hi, I'm Michael Bain. You know I hate cleaning guns, so anything that makes that job faster and easier is definitely a plus. And that's where Bore Tips come in. These reusable, lint-free cleaning swabs make cleaning a breeze. And the tighter-fitting Bore Tips do a better job on barrels than cotton mops or patches. Hey, it's a dirty job. Let Bore Tips help. To find a dealer, visit BoreTips.com.
Get to our website and register for the OpticsPlanet.com Lights and Lasers giveaway. Each week, 5 winners will get a $10 e-gift certificate to OpticsPlanet.com. Grand prize winner gets a Crimson Trace Railmaster Universal Green Laser Sight and a Universal Tactical Light from OpticsPlanet.com. Enter today at www.guntalk.com/win through November 29th. Good luck. Now here's Tom.
All right, let's get right to it. As I said, Dick Metcalf has been a writer for Guns and Ammo and Shooting Times. A lot of pretty much written for every magazine put out by Intermedia and its predecessor, Prime Media and Peterson's Publishing, as well as special interest publications, and written a number of books on guns, everything from hunting guns to self-defense guns to AR-15s and everything else. Dick, welcome to the program. Normally I would ask how you doing, but I think I got an idea.
Well, I do have a lot of free time on my hand, Tom, and let me apologize for being on speakerphone. My handset, which isn't used but about once every year, started beeping low battery, and I didn't want everybody to think you cut me off in mid-sentence.
Appreciate it. It doesn't sound bad. This is not a bad speakerphone, so I appreciate that. You know, and as you and I talked about before, we're going to be time limited. Let me ask a few quick questions, and then we can get into a little bit more meaty stuff. The piece you wrote is called Let's Talk Limits in the December issue of Guns and Ammo. A subtitle is Do Certain Firearms Regulations Really Constitute Infringement? First of all, was this written on a short deadline?
Okay, first of all, you, as being a member of the publishing world, know that titles and subheads are never picked by the author.
Right.
I had picked a title and a subhead, and those are the last things I'd have picked because I didn't think I was talking limits. I thought I was talking reality. And the second part of your question about was it written on tight limits? No, not really. When I was given the original assignment to take over the back page column back right after Jay Guthrie died last spring, we talked about the nature of the column, and we came up with a list of possible topics to be discussed, and this was one of them, the question of regulation and infringement and the training requirements in concealed carry laws, because you may recall at that time we had just finally broken through and passed a concealed carry law in Illinois, and it was a very topical issue. So,
right.
No, this was a long plan and, frankly, fairly carefully crafted column. It was not an impulse, and I think that probably for many people is going to make it sound even worse.
Okay, and it's a good point, and people should understand the writers almost never get to select the title or subtitles of their articles, and sometimes all of us writers have been surprised by what shows up, and you're going, really? So, no, I get it. I understand what you're saying. At any point, was there a discussion internally that said, guys, do we really want to do this? Because, I mean, you knew about Zumbo, and you knew about the editor of Recoil magazine who had been fired for saying that maybe people shouldn't be allowed to own machine guns. You knew how the firearms community can and has reacted. Was there a discussion about that before you wrote this or that it got published?
I can't speak to whatever discussions may have happened internally at Intermedia headquarters or Gun as an Ammo editorial headquarters in Peoria, because I was not party to them. Like all of the backstop columns, I submitted this one directly to the editor and the managing editor, which isn't usual. Usually you just send in your copy routine to the managing editor and it pretty much goes into the process. Mm-hmm. But because we knew that we were dealing always with controversial subjects in backstop, even if it was long barrels versus short barrel accuracy in rifles, that we wanted to make sure everything was vetted. I have been told by members of Intermedia management that it was shown around within the building and that people did say, well, this is going to be a hot button issue, but nobody, and I knew it was going to be a hot button issue, Tom. You'll recall I wrote about this same subject back in the 1970s and 1980s when I wrote the firearms law column for Shooting Times. Mm-hmm. But nobody anticipated the massive, overwhelmingly, totally negative outcry. We expected that we would generate a conversation. We didn't think we were going to incite a riot.
Okay. In the week since this really blew up, I mentioned going into the break, I mean, it's been picked up by CNN and Fox and New York Times and others, and actually, in many cases, has been held up to say, well, see, these gun guys are just crazy. They won't even allow a reasonable conversation about this. Would you agree that just the very fact that this was written and this thing has blown up has ended up being a negative and has actually harmed the gun rights movement?
That's a hard question to answer. I do not believe, I cannot personally or philosophically believe that refusing or forbidding discussion of significant issues of any kind because of fear that somebody else might take advantage of it and hold it up as a matter of political weakness should ever close people's minds or close the door to reasoned discourse. I was surprised at the overwhelming response from mainstream media contacting me, not when the column came out on the Fuhrer, but once Mr. Bequette was forced to resign and I was terminated, wanting to interview me, put me on TV, put me on CBS This Morning, put me on MSNBC, put me on ABC, put me in the New York Times. I was surprised by that. Surprised to the extent that a CBS producer from Chicago drove all the way down here and made a cold call on my wife and I's front door to hand me a letter inviting me to go on CBS This Morning. And what I learned, and I hadn't talked to anybody except the guy who handed me the letter. I've taken no calls, and I simply refused to go on the air or go into print with any of these people. What I was surprised to learn was they basically see the issue as a freedom of speech, censorship, freedom of the press issue. It's not really about guns for them anymore.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, it's not about First Amendment, because the First Amendment limits only government action. It has nothing to do with a First Amendment issue. And as to whether it's a freedom of speech issue, that's another thing that can be thrown out. But let me just ask you, and the thing is, you've been around guns a long time, as I have. You have covered this. You know all the players all the way back. I'm thinking, the major players from 20, 30, even 40 years ago. There traditionally has been, in the gun world, some folks who said, well, gee, can't we have a conversation and maybe we can find some middle ground? But traditionally what has happened is we end up giving something up and the gun banners get something. I mean, that's like their form of compromise. We don't lose everything all at once. They don't get everything they want all at once, but we're losing step by step by step, and that's kind of their compromise. I know a lot of people have looked at this and said, what you're doing is you're saying, gee, let's just have a conversation that maybe some restrictions are okay, and they saw that as a continuation of that trend.
The conversation that I was looking to have was not with the other side. The conversation I was looking to have was within our own community. I was not, and nowhere in what I wrote can you, I think, find, and I've only read what I've written probably 500 times since it came out in print, trying to figure out what exactly the issue was. I never, ever called for any compromise. I never, ever called for any middle ground. What my goal in writing it was grew out of my experience working so hard here in Illinois to get concealed carry passed. Mm-hmm. What I was trying to do was simply point out to our own community that when we refuse to even talk ourselves about certain realities, we make it harder for ourselves to gain our own ends. It's taken us a long, long time to get all 50 states to have concealed carry laws. And I'm glad that Illinois law was passed. Do I like its provisions? No. Am I going to get a carry concealed license? Yes. The problem I see, and having made the fight, been in the forefront, spoke to citizens group after citizens group, was we realized very quickly that unless we would vote for a bill that had things in it that we don't like and that we don't actually believe are constitutional, the bill that would be passed instead would be 20 times worse. So the only way we could get what we got, the only way we could get a shall issue carry law, mm-hmm. was to, our legislators at least, to hammer out what in the days before the Civil War was called a compromise to keep a civil war from happening. They hammered out an agreement that had what I think excessive fees, what I think has an excessively long and pretty empty training requirement. But once that law was passed, that means that Illinois citizens can, if they want, get a concealed carry law. I think I'm better off having that law than not, and that's what I meant when I said I personally have no problem. I never said I advocate mandatory training in carry concealed laws. I said I have no problem spending 16 hours of my life taking that course if that's what it takes for me to be able to carry legally instead of illegally in Illinois.
Okay, and obviously you and I, and we established this last week in a conversation, you and I disagree on this because you asked, do I think that having to get a carry permit is an infringement? I think it absolutely is. I think that having to say, Mother, may I, and having to get permission to exercise a right, I don't equate it to cars. You equated this to, use the car analogy and use the shouting in a crowded theater analogy. I equate this to a First Amendment right. You don't have to request permission or have a First Amendment card. And so I think that every single requirement requiring a concealed carry permit is, in fact, an infringement. And there are a lot of us, clearly. This is who has reacted to this. People who say, no, this is an infringement, and we cannot agree to any of this. Do I hear you right? What you're saying is, look, get what you can get now and then work on it later?
Well, we've been doing that, frankly, for as long as I've been an adult, is get what we can get and work on it later. And I actually, looking back over the 40 years I've been in this business, I would say that we have made progress rather than falling back. When I was first writing about firearms law, less than half the states, citizens in less than half the states could actually carry a concealed firearm legally. Now citizens in all of the states have a mechanism of some kind where they can carry a firearm concealed legally. and we work constantly to improve the restrictive laws that exist. I'm talking about reality. I'm trying to talk about reality, not about what is ideologically pure. I believe, like you, that the Second Amendment shall not be infringed. But the reality is that it has always been regulated. And as for what I said about the other freedoms under the Bill of Rights, they are all regulated too. Of course, they are regulated in different ways, hopefully appropriate to the different form of right. Of course, free speech is regulated. There are laws limiting certain types of speech. And of course, those laws are different than concealed carry permits. And of course, you don't need a permit to talk. You do need a permit to assemble in some areas. It's always different. My point is that all constitutional rights have been deemed regulatable under our constitutional system and always have been. And if we deny that reality, we are denying us any chance of success in our goals, and we're denying ourselves any chance to bring the majority of the American citizenry along with us.
Okay, let me ask you a question here, because we're going to run out of time. Given the events of the last week, you lost your job, he's out as editor. If you could go back and change something, what would you change?
First of all, Tom, you have to understand that once every 4 or 5 years, I just simply get an impulse to step in front of a bus, and this was probably one of them. Second, I think if I could change anything, I might have tried to make it more clear within the same 800-word limit that I was not saying that getting a driver's license is the same as getting a concealed carry permit, and I would have not have opened myself to the accusation that I didn't understand what well-regulated meant to Alexander Hamilton, and I wouldn't have made quite such an apparent direct analogy to the other rights. But would I have backed away from suggesting to my fellow gun owners and Second Amendment right activists that we need to be very clear about
Dick, I got 20 seconds. You got to wrap it up, please.
I'm wrapping it up right now. I guess the bottom line is I believe that subject is something that we as gun owners ought to discuss rationally among ourselves, and we should not reject anybody who simply wants to raise the question.
All right, listen, I apologize. We got a hard break, and here it is.
Friends and kids shooting lately? You're listening to Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, and we'll be right back. Want to be a guest on the show? Drop us a line at info@guntalk.com. You're listening to Gun Talk with Tom Gresham.
All right, and again, apologize to Dick Metcalf. We went to the break, had to go to the break because it's going to come no matter what. The computer fires that break off for us, and couldn't get his last comments in, but I think you got the gist of it. So the question is now, what do you think? What's your reaction? You heard from the man himself. This is your chance to weigh in, to offer your thoughts, and not just on Dick, on how the whole thing went. 866-TALK-GUN, 866-825-5486. Also, we're over on Twitter. You can leave a note there. I am at Gun Talk on Twitter. Some of the comments coming in on Twitter. Tom! Exclamation point. This is from Charles. It's not that he wanted a conversation on the restriction, talk about Metcalf, on the Second Amendment, and brought it up as a topic, but that he believes in it. In other words, he believes in restricting rights. Another one, it took this long, talking about how long it took to get Illinois concealed carry, because we compromised so much in the 60s and 70s, a culture he was part of. From Dean, sorry, Dick, I'm not buying it. Compromises cost us far too much infringement, not another inch. I was contacted yesterday by CNN. They were wanting to get a hold of Metcalf. And I will say, to his credit, he turned down all the other folks who were basically, and he got it. They were trying to use him. And CNN's Reliable Sources, which is a show about the media. And it was interesting. One of the commenters there, a woman from D.C., and I thought for sure she's going to jump all over this, is free speech issue and all. And she said, no. She said, look, what did the magazine think was going to happen? She said, this is not a journalist magazine. This is an advocacy magazine. And you take a position that is the opposite from what your readers believe. What did you think was going to happen? And that's kind of where I am on this. Is it really? It's not like this happened in a vacuum. We had Zumbo. We had the editor of Recoil magazine who got fired for saying that, well, maybe people, just regular old people, shouldn't be allowed to own machine guns. With that track record, it's just stunning that, what did you think was going to happen? And look, it very well may be that part of the reaction, part of the problem comes from the pejorative, if you will, or at least sensational headline that somebody else put on his piece. Let's talk limits. Do certain firearms regulations really constitute infringement? That kind of set the scene where if you read that, you're thinking, okay, I'm mad before I start reading it. And having been the victim of editors writing headlines for my articles that didn't really go with the article and really kind of screwed it up, I'm sympathetic. At the same time, there has been a track record of 40, 50 years plus of the gun community making the mistake of thinking that the gun ban industry, and that's what it is, the gun ban industry, really just wants some reasonable controls and really just wants to have a few little tweaks on it, instead of understanding and believing in your heart of hearts that what they want to do is destroy you. They want to rip out your guts. They want to kill you in front of your children. They want to take your guns away. They want to ban your guns. They want to take all your ammunition. They want to make sure that you can never own another firearm. And, as they've told me right here on the show, when that's done, we're going to take the guns away from the police too. And you think, well, that's crazy. I don't care what you think it is. It is crazy, but that's who they are, and that's what they want. This is nothing less than a cultural war, W-A-R, war. And in war, you don't say, I think if we give up this territory here, we give up this hard-fought ground here, the other side is going to say, that's a very nice gesture on your part, and we're just going to kind of call a truce and we'll hold everything the way it is. No, if you give them any land, they're going to say, you're weak, we're going to go take some more from you. You don't give up land. You don't give up territory. You don't give up ground. You take ground. And you use leverage when you have it. As a friend of mine said, look, in business and in politics, if you have leverage and you don't use it, that's a sin. What we just did, what Dick just did, what Dick Metcalf just did, is he gave leverage to the other side. When the New York Times and CNN and Fox and all these other outlets are using his column. Oh, yeah, and did we mention the Brady campaign is using his column? The gun banning Brady campaign? When they use that to push forth their views and to further to the public the image of gun owners as Neanderthals who won't even allow a reasonable conversation. Of course, we're going to put aside for the moment the fact that liberal colleges shout down conservatives and don't let them speak. Yeah, but nobody ever says anything about that in the media. But you could argue that this piece gives aid to the enemy. Or am I overstating it? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. 866 Talk Guns. Also, we'll be talking about some other things as we go along today. Let's talk to Evan on line 3 out of Portland, Oregon. Evan, tell me about your trip on Amtrak.
Yeah, well, my wife and I went up to Amtrak. My son loves trains, so we decided to take that up there. But she said that we have to have my gun with me up in Seattle. And so I had to call around and found out that the biggest difference between Amtrak and airlines is you have to call 24 hours in advance to get a reservation for your gun and a separate one for any ammunition you're taking. So I'm glad I called ahead. Have you heard anything about it?
Just a little bit. I didn't know they were doing that, though.
Yeah, it's surprising because, like you're talking online on there, going up to the airport, you just check it in, but can't do that on the trains.
Interesting. So how'd it go?
It went pretty smooth. I mean, they didn't, for all I know, they didn't even ask me to look at the gun or anything like that. And I was kind of concerned because they said that they would have that, my luggage in a stored locked security area. Well, when I went to actually travel through the train with my son, I saw my suitcase was the very top one on the pile of suitcases in the luggage. So I'm not sure if that's very secure, but...
Yeah, well, I hope you had good locks on it. That's the main thing.
Yeah, they don't have any metal detectors or anything like that, so I guess you could technically have went right onto the train with it, but...
Right. Oh, well, I tell you what, well, I appreciate the report. All right, everybody, your chance to weigh in. Overreaction on the part of gun owners and the gun community, or as some said, the crazies on our side, each side's got its crazies. I don't, or is this a reasonable response and maybe a teachable moment for others who would do the same thing? I'm sure you have a thought on it. 866-TALK-GUN, 866-825-5486.
Keep your handgun and other valuables safe in your truck or SUV. Get a vehicle vault from Console Vault. Plate steel, 3-point locking system, easy installation. Visit consolevault.com.
Want your next gun purchase to be fast and hassle-free? Well, at galleryofguns.com, you can search through thousands of models from our huge firearms inventory. Find a great offer from a local dealer that includes all fees and taxes. And there's no need to arrange a transfer. Gallery of Guns takes a small deposit on your credit card, and your gun will be at your chosen dealer in as little as 48 hours. Plus, your gun will be covered by our guaranteed lifetime replacement warranty. GalleryofGuns.com. Search, find, buy. It really is just that easy.
A great trigger can make you a better shooter. For over 60 years, Timney triggers have been trusted by hunters and shooters everywhere. Timney triggers are proudly made in the USA and come with a lifetime warranty. Installation is easy. Give yourself the Timney Trigger advantage. To see more and order online, go to timneytriggers.com. That's TIMNEY triggers.com.
At Double Tap Ammunition, we hand inspect every round that we make, and we use only the best components to give you the best ammunition on the market. Try us out at www.doubletapammo.com and use the promo code GUNTALK for 10% off your order.
If you're looking for a safe and trusted way to sell your firearms, look no further than Dury's Gun Shop. I trusted them to sell my dad's collection. They built their business for over 50 years on honesty and customer service. Dury's Guns will buy any size collection or estate, none too big or too small. Selling your firearms to Dury's Guns is easy. Go with the pros. I trust Dury's Guns. DurysGuns.com.
Crossbreed Holsters is broadening our product selection to serve more of your concealed carry needs. With products handmade in the USA, like the Bedside Backup, gun belts, and of course our world-famous Super Tuck and Mini Tuck holsters, we understand what works, and we take pride in providing you with a quality product. At Crossbreed Holsters, we live and breathe concealed carry. We make and sell products that we believe in and products that our customers love. To see more, go to crossbreedholsters.com. That's crossbreedholsters.com.
Traveling with your handgun? The gun transporter from Console Vault protects your gun with plate steel, high security lock, and retractable tether cable. Accessible but secure. Visit consolevault.com.
I'm a gun owner.
Your views, advice, and questions are the driving force of Gun Talk.
I don't think that guns are scary things.
Visit us online at www.guntalk.com. Call Tom now at 866-TALK-GUN, 866-825-5486. Let us know what you think about the gun-related issues of the day. Now, back to Gun Talk.
All right, welcome back to Gun Talk. 866-TALK-GUN. We'll get you in here. If you want to shoot me an email, tom@guntalk.com. Over on Twitter, I'm at Gun Talk. A lot of people are making comments there. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. From William, sad in a way, very naive attitude by Dick Metcalf. He should learn the term United Front. It's a war for the Second Amendment we're fighting. I actually got one this morning. Guy says, why are you giving him a platform? Why are you letting him on your show? It was pretty in your face about it. Take a lot of different views out there. Okay, we'll just put it that way. All right. Let's see. Line 2, Ray is in Minden, Nevada. Hello, Ray. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Tom. And you should be commended for a wonderful interview with Dick. You held his feet to the fire. And actually, it took a lot of guts for Dick to come on the air. People should realize that. But I still think he's wrong, and our Second Amendment rights should not be negotiated. They're not non-negotiable.
Let me play devil's advocate, okay? If you're, and I saw this as state after state passed concealed carry laws, and a lot of us were saying you should not have to get a concealed carry law, you should not have to get a permit, but it's currently illegal to carry. So you say, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to support a concealed carry law, even if it contains things we don't want, and then we'll go back. And then a lot of states went back and changed things, improved them, made them better. And then eventually, actually, in a couple of states, got rid of the concealed carry law altogether where no permit is needed. Given that, you're sitting here in Illinois and you're saying, we got nothing. We can't carry openly. We can't carry concealed. This is the best we can do at this time, understanding that it is, in fact, yes, an infringement. What do you do?
Well, you have no choice in that matter because it's already a done deal. But like you said, you have to work on it later. But I shouldn't have to ask the government's permission to carry my gun any way I want.
Absolutely. And, in case anybody gets confused, I would hope that we've established a track record now saying, look, training is good. Everybody should get training. But, in fact, your concealed carry class is not training. It never has been. It just isn't. It's a check-the-box thing. You shouldn't have to say, Mother, may I? In fact, you know what? If you have to say, Mother, may I, to exercise a right, it's no longer a right. It's a privilege. Because a privilege is something you ask permission to do.
Absolutely. And that's when you compare it to a driver's license.
Yes.
And there's no comparison.
And, oh, by the way, you don't have to be 18 or have a driver's license or have taken a class to buy a car. You can buy a car at age 7 if you want to.
Absolutely.
And just so anybody is not clear on this, you don't have to have a driver's license to buy a car. You can just buy it. Now, you can drive it on private land. You can't drive it on the public roads, but that's a whole different issue. And so that gets confused sometimes. But the idea, if you have to ask permission, and if it can be taken away, because that's the whole thing. Your concealed carry permit can be taken away from you, and you lose that ability. You don't lose the right, but you lose the ability, which, if they can take it away from you like that, I guess the question on the floor is it really a right at all, or is it just a privilege? So, yeah, Ray, thank you for that. And I agree with you. Dick is to be congratulated for coming on and talking about it here. He turned down everybody else, CNN, Fox, everybody beating on him, CBS. He said, I'll write for the Shooting Wires, and I'll come on Gun Talk, and that's the only two he'll do. So, and thank you to Dick. I appreciate that, and thank him for understanding that the clock is always our master around here. 866-TALK-GUN. What did you think of it?
You don't have to agree with Tom to participate in the show. Call now with any of your concerns about guns, gun rights, or particular firearms, or suggestions for your shooting activity or personal protection. 1-866-825-5486. Gun Talk is coming right back. You're Your views, advice, and questions are the driving force of Gun Talk. Visit us online at www.guntalk.com. Call Tom now at 866-TALK-GUN, 866-825-5486. Let us know what you think about the gun-related issues of the day. Now, back to Gun Talk.
It occurs to me that maybe some historical perspective might be a good time to put some of that in here. I've gotten some emails from some gun owners who say, look, this is reasonable. This is overreaction on the part of gun owners. Some of us are crazy. Well, that part's certainly true. But you know what? Every group has its fringes, but not really that many of us. One thing I do wish, and I've said this before, I wish we could get the kind of reaction that we saw with Zumbo, with Recoil Magazine, with Metcalf from gun owners, and turn that into reaction to threats and attacks from the gun control groups. I think we could stop a lot of this if we could pour 100,000 or 500,000 emails and calls in a 36-hour period, as happens with these things. For some reason, people react more strongly to what they see as an act of betrayal. Okay, I can kind of get that. It's personal. But boy, it sure would be more effective, honestly. It would really be more effective if you could do that when Feinstein or Schumer or somebody else is doing something and we react overwhelmingly and hugely and suddenly, savagely, suddenly. That gets people's attention. All right, historical perspective. For those who are saying, well, gee, what's wrong with talking about this? Okay, first of all, the mere conversation is used against us and has been already. But let's go back, just so people are clear. 1934, the National Firearms Act, NFA, regulates full auto and suppressors, basically. 1968, the Gun Control Act of 1968 does away with being able to buy guns through the mail, requires that gun stores have a license, requires that you have to buy a gun through a gun store, and it has a lot of other things. Let's see, Firearms Owners Protection Act, which had some good things and some bad things in it. The 94 Brady Act, the crime bill, on and on and on. And you'll notice that every one of these is more restriction, more restriction, more restriction, more restriction. Take away rights, a subtraction. And each time, as the gun banners and the president sat down to sign the bill, they would sign it, and as the ink was drying, literally, they would look up at the camera and say, well, of course, this isn't going to actually reduce crime. After they spent the previous several years telling us this is the answer to crime. And then they look dead in the camera and with a straight face and they say, this isn't going to reduce crime, but it's a good first step. Now, I heard that, I wasn't there for 34, but I heard it in 68. And I heard it in 84, and I heard it in 94, and I've heard it every time they've done it. It's a good first step. Every time there's a compromise, we give up rights. We lose rights, and they take away some of our rights. So a lot of us have just said, okay, we get it. We see the trend. We understand where this is going. You can't have a compromise with those people. My compromise is real simple. Rather than repeal every single gun law, which is what I would really like to do, I'll compromise and repeal only half the gun laws now. We got to start moving the other direction. And we cannot ever, ever give up an inch. We cannot acquiesce in any form or fashion. And we have to let them know we will never give up this. And we will personally see to it that you get defeated if you support this. If we are not willing to do that, then why show up? You know what? And if you're not willing to make that commitment, dare I say it, then shut the heck up, because you're not helping us at all. In fact, I would say that you're actually hurting us.
No black helicopters here, just the facts about gun rights and gun ownership. This is Gun Talk.